You know that feeling when you wonder if your relationship with alcohol has maybe tilted a little too far?
Hmm.
Maybe it's just the habit, that evening drink, or just a nagging thought that you'd like to have a bit more control. It's a really common place to be, right?
Absolutely. So many people find themselves wanting to maybe adjust their drinking habits, but not necessarily thinking about, complete abstinence.
Yeah, finding a different kind of balance.
Exactly.
And that's precisely where our deep dive is heading today. We're looking into a program called Thrive Alcohol Recovery.
Which?
Their website lays out this online approach, and the whole aim is helping people reduce their drinking right from home.
And what caught my eye is their core strategy.
Mm.
It seems to be combining a medication, naltrexone, with quite a bit of online support. We
Right.
really position that combination as key to helping people manage things better.
So if you've ever wondered about options that aren't just, the traditional all or nothing model, or maybe you're just curious about what's new in this area, well, this is for you. We're going to explore what Thrive is all about, based purely on what they present on their site.
Yeah.
Our mission here is basically to pull out the key info about their program, the ideas behind it, and just give you a clear picture of this alternative approach.
Oh, yeah, will do it.
All right, so starting with the basics, what's the kind of central idea driving Thrive's whole approach?
Well, the core concept really seems to be about how medication and support work together.
Mm.
Complementary actions, you could say.
Okay.
They use naltrexone, that's the medication, and the idea is that it works on the physical side, reducing cravings for alcohol.
Uh-huh.
And then that's paired with a whole range of online support options. These are
Mm.
designed to help with the behavioral stuff, the emotional side of changing drinking habits.
Right.
They really they emphasize that it's this two-pronged approach that they believe makes their program effective.
Naltrexone. Yeah, that name definitely comes up in discussions about managing alcohol. What exactly is it, and how does Thrive say it helps people?
So, according to their website, naltrexone is a medication that's been shown, they say in clinical studies, to decrease both alcohol cravings and the actual amount of alcohol people drink.
Interesting.
They also mention it helps people have more alcohol-free days. And importantly, Thrive helps people access it by offering referrals to telemedicine physicians right within their program.
Telemedicine. So like a remote doctor consultation?
Exactly, yeah, usually phone or video. It's meant to make getting started with the medication easier, more accessible.
So it's not just about willpower then. This medication is actually tackling the physical urges.
Hmm.
It almost sounds like they might be drawing on principles from something called the Sinclair Method, even if they don't, shout that name from the rooftops.
That's a really sharp observation.
That idea of using naltrexone to kind of disrupt the craving reward cycle with alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. While they don't seem to prominently feature the name Sinclair Method in the material we looked at, the way they describe using naltrexone to lessen cravings, reduce consumption, it lines up very closely with the core ideas of that method.
Right.
For anyone unfamiliar, the Sinclair Method, it's a specific way of using naltrexone. You take it about an hour before drinking, and the goal is to gradually reduce the sort of positive hit you get from alcohol over time.
So it's a subtle, but potentially quite significant part of how this works.
It seems that way, yeah.
Okay, so medication handles the physical aspect. What about the other side, the support? What kinds of help and guidance do they offer?
They outline several key support areas. First, the whole thing is online, app or computer access. That
Yeah.
gives a lot of privacy, convenience.
Makes sense.
Second, there's coaching. And this comes in different forms, seems to depend on the plan you choose.
Okay.
Could be unlimited private messaging with a coach, live group meetings for members to connect and share.
Ah, like peer support?
Yeah, exactly. And even one-on-one coaching sessions for more sort of personalized guidance.
Right.
And then finally, there's an online community forum. So members can chat, share their journeys, offer encouragement to each other.
That emphasis on privacy, I can see why that would be important. A lot of people might value that discretion when looking into something like this.
Definitely.
Now, the big question, does it work? What kind of evidence or results does Thrive actually point to on their site?
Well, they mentioned clinical trials that have shown naltrexone is effective,
Mm-hmm.
specifically in reducing heavy drinking days and also just overall alcohol intake.
Okay.
They also really highlight naltrexone's ability to target and lessen those alcohol cravings.
Right, the core mechanism we talked about.
Exactly. And crucially, Thrive claims that combining naltrexone with their support system leads to sustained results. They define that as reduced drinking for 6 months or longer.
6 months, okay. That's significant.
Yeah. And they even put out a statistic that 53% of their members apparently noticed a reduction in their drinking within just the first week of starting.
Wow, first week. That does sound pretty encouraging, gives people some immediate feedback.
Seems like it, yeah.
So, for someone listening right now thinking this might be a path they want to check out, what's the actual process? How do you get started with Thrive?
They lay out a pretty simple three-step process. First, you pick a membership plan that gives you immediate access to the online program resources.
Okay.
Second step, you schedule a call. And this call seems to do a few things. Connects you with a coach, gets the ball rolling on a referral for that telemedicine consult if medication looks like a fit,
Right, the Naltrexone part.
and it also gets you into their private community.
Got it. And the third step?
Third is basically the ongoing support. They emphasize that it continues through the community, the coaching, and various other resources they provide.
So they've tried to make it fairly seamless, it sounds like. They also spend some time talking about the various costs of drinking too much. What sort of negative impacts do they bring up?
Yeah, they cover quite a bit of ground there.
Yeah.
Physically, they mention things like exhaustion, general health worries, maybe weight gain.
Uh-huh.
Financially, obviously the cost of alcohol itself. Emotionally, they touch on things like increased anxiety, maybe depression, lack of confidence.
Yeah.
And then there's the time factor. Time spent drinking, time spent recovering. Potential strain on relationships, how it might hold you back from personal goals.
Right.
And even the social side, like feeling pressured to drink or relying on it in social situations.
Covers a lot of bases.
It does. And they use this phrase, we get it, we were there too.
Mm.
It adds this layer of empathy, suggests they understand these struggles firsthand.
Yeah, that relatability could be really important for someone considering this. So, what are the typical goals people have when they join Thrive? What are they hoping to achieve?
Well, the goals seem pretty diverse,
Hmm.
which makes sense, right?
Hmm.
People's relationships with alcohol are different.
Yeah.
Some members, their main aim is to become a moderate drinker, to feel like they're in control.
Okay.
Others are really focused on health improvements, more energy, just feeling better physically.
Mm-hmm.
Being more present for family is another big one they mention. Reducing the negatives like hangovers, blackouts.
Yeah, the immediate downsides.
Exactly. Some people want to be able to, enjoy alcohol socially, but without overdoing it.
Finding that balance again.
Right. And others aspire to reach a point where they feel kind of an indifference to alcohol, that take it or leave it feeling.
Interesting.
And they also acknowledge that for some members, the journey might lead them to decide that actually an alcohol-free future is what they want.
So it really sounds like they're trying to meet people wherever they are on that spectrum rather than saying this is the only acceptable outcome.
Yeah, that seems to be the message, yeah.
Yeah.
Letting the individual decide.
Now, what does Thrive point to as being unique about their program? What sets it apart from, say, other options out there?
They highlight a few things. They restate that their approach is evidence-based, especially the naltrexone part, but maybe not as widely known as some traditional methods.
Okay.
A key difference they stress is that focus on moderation as a perfectly valid, often primary goal.
Mm-hmm.
Again, emphasizing that the member defines success.
Right, not just abstinence.
Exactly. They also make a point that the program is developed and led by people, peers and specialists, who have actually been through it themselves, lived experience.
That could be powerful.
Yeah. And then there's the community aspect, fostered through the forums and exclusive events like live Q&As, workshops.
Mm-hmm.
That sense of connection, plus, again, the privacy and convenience of doing it all from home.
That mix of lived experience, professional guidance, and peer support. Mm-hmm. It does sound like a potentially strong combination.
Mm-hmm.
They even mention a success rate, don't they? What do they claim?
They do. They cite a clinically proven 78% success rate, specifically tied to their targeted naltrexone therapy.
78%.
And they also include a testimonial from a Dr. John C. Umhau. He's described as a former senior scientist at NIAA.
National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism.
That's the one. And he apparently speaks positively about Thrive, highlighting it as a source of peer support, good information, having a kind of holistic view, and giving people confidence on their recovery journey.
High praise from someone in that field. And what about the origin story? Who started Thrive and why?
So the website shares the story of the founder, a woman named Katie. Apparently, she personally struggled with problematic drinking for quite some time.
Okay.
And she felt that the traditional routes just weren't the right fit for her. Her goal wasn't necessarily total abstinence, but more about regaining control, finding an off switch, as she puts
It's
it.
an off switch. Yeah, I like that metaphor.
Right. And she found success, her story goes, through combining medication, implying naltrexone, and making lifestyle changes.
Hmm.
So this personal experience really motivated her to create Thrive back in 2018. The idea was to help others find that same kind of control.
So she's become an advocate for this approach.
Seems so. An advocate for naltrexone and the principles behind, well, what sounds like the Sinclair Method. And the site mentions they've helped hundreds of people since starting up.
Okay, so ultimately, boiling it all down, what's the core aim? What is Thrive trying to help people achieve?
Their main goal, based on what they say, is really to give individuals the tools they need to reduce cravings and stop overdrinking.
Right.
And by doing that, the aim is to help people lead healthier, happier lives, however they define that for themselves regarding alcohol.
Okay, great. So just to quickly summarize our deep dive into Thrive Alcohol Recovery, we've looked at this program built around naltrexone medication
Access via telemedicine referral within the program.
and combined with a pretty comprehensive set of online support resources.
Yeah, coaching in different forms, that private online community.
Right. And Thrive presents evidence backing naltrexone for reducing consumption and cravings. They really emphasize moderation as a valid goal for many members, which is, a contrast to solely abstinence-focused models.
Definitely.
We also touched on their claimed 78% success rate with naltrexone therapy and the founder Katie's personal story, her search for that off switch.
Precisely. It really seems to offer a potentially appealing alternative for people looking to change their relationship with alcohol in a way that fits their own goals, their preferences.
And all within that discreet, accessible online setup.
Exactly.
So for you listening, as you think about your own experiences, or maybe those of people you know, this Look at Thrive's approach just gives some insight into a different kind of path.
One that's science-backed but doesn't automatically insist on complete abstinence.
Right. Which kind of leaves you with a question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Could a structured program like this, combining medication and support, actually be that off switch some people are looking for?
Yeah, what might become possible with a greater sense of control?
What new possibilities might open up? Definitely something to think about further.